As most people are now aware, Joe Biden is not popular nationwide, but even just among Democrats, there's a sentiment, a clear and loud present sentiment that we do not want Joe Biden to be the 2024 nominee for president for the Democratic ticket. And this was found very clearly in a recent poll that revealed, quote, just 26% of Democrats said they would prefer President Joe Biden to be their party's candidate in the 2024 election. That means 64% want someone else heading the ticket, a new poll found. Now, just think about this. Because we're in this current American climate and everyone kind of has a sense that Biden isn't doing so well and not very popular and stuff like that, this may not shock you. But compared to other times, almost always the current president, if it's their first term, most people in that party are going to be like, definitely they should run again. When Obama was president, his popularity was 80 plus among Democrats, same thing with Trump among Republicans. So having a party who looks at their president who has the opportunity to run again and says, nah, let's pick someone else, when there really isn't a clear someone else, but who cares, just not Biden, is kind of the sentiment from Democrats, is really, really fascinating. Continuing on from this CNBC article, quote, Biden's age and job performance were the top reasons cited by Democrats why they wanted a candidate other than Biden to be the party nominee. The New York Times Siena College poll found. Age, job performance, competency, stuff like that tends to be what people think about when analyzing the situation. Just 13% of voters of all kinds say the United States is on the right track, while 77% say it was headed in the wrong direction. That's devastating. You as a president don't want to look at your country and see numbers like that. 77% of people think we're going in the wrong direction. Now, is that on Biden's shoulders? No. I mean, some of it, of course, but for the most part, there's a lot of factors going on as to why people are so unsettled and fearful. And one of those is this emergence of a right-wing anti-democratic movement in the country that makes at least a lot of liberal respondents go, we're in a bad direction, because it doesn't look like the Democrats could effectively stamp down that movement. Last point here, quote, Biden would likely defeat former President Donald Trump. So this is a hopeful part of the article. Again, if the election were held today, the survey suggested, with 44% of voters selecting Biden compared to 41% for the Republican he beat in 2020. So I don't know about that. As we know, polling on this is tough to gauge because Republican motivation is so much stronger than Democratic motivation most elections recently for some reason. I don't know why. But when you look at a poll, it's like 44% to 41%. That 41% is going to be a lot better at following through with voting if they said that in a poll compared to Democratic voters who are like, yeah, of course I would vote for Biden, or even some independents. Of course I'd vote for Biden over Trump, but then they don't actually go out and do it because Biden isn't a motivating character. Now, they did in 2020 because Trump was so divisive and had managed the pandemic poorly and had all of this angry sentiment against him that it was kind of like any Democratic nominee would have benefited from that fear and hate that was directed towards Trump, pushing people to the polls for the Democrats. But you give a few years for that level of heat to wear off on Trump and he runs again, and Biden's trying to run against him. There's not a bunch of energy behind Biden. There's tons of right-wing energy behind Trump. Scary situation, even if the polls right now suggest otherwise. So, what does this mean for Biden and the Democrats? Well, I think they're right now just absolutely messing up, dropping the ball on thinking ahead even just 2 years. The 2024 election is just around the corner. If you understand the way presidential elections work, usually you have years and years that you're working this out. Now, you announce 1.5 years before the election, but you're planning that 4 years probably before the election. And so because Biden is not being clear on whether he's going to run or not, and he's pretending like he is going to run, that's causing a situation where other Democrats who might be trying to take that slot if Biden ends up not running, which I think is pretty likely that he won't, they're having to take a back seat, not start those preparations because it would be seen as antagonistic towards the leader of the party right now. So I think the second the 2022 midterms happen, he needs to announce, I'm not running, and then they need to put all of the Democratic Party's weight behind a person that they feel could beat Trump and make them a rising star, give them all the attention they could possibly can to have some hope in defeating the Republican Party. So from my perspective, I hear a lot of names floated. Guys, let me just shut down some ideas here. I love AOC. Stop saying she's an opportunity or a possible 2024 presidential candidate. Nonsense. She literally, I think, would barely make the age cutoff. She would be exactly 35, which is the minimum age for being president. She does not have the level of experience, the level of specific national attention that you would need to be seen as a presidential candidate. And I think if she does have presidential aspirations, that's way down the road, okay? So stop it with that. Again, I love AOC, but the amount of people I've heard AOC 2024, that's not even possible. She would have no chance against Trump or DeSantis or Tucker Carlson or anything like that. Another one I keep hearing is Katie Porter. Again, same situation. Not the age piece of it, but the presidential candidate viability, no chance. Jamie Raskin, someone I like. Does he have the ability to build a presidential campaign? At this moment, I don't think so. The only ones that I think have a reasonable shot is someone like Raphael Warnock, Ossoff. Again, I think Ossoff's too early, similar situation as AOC, or Gavin Newsom. And people go, oh, Gavin Newsom, no. I get it. Not the best person ever, but as far as someone who would have a chance against a Ron DeSantis, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, I do think Gavin Newsom would be better off than most of our options. So while I wish we could get like an ideal progressive, I've heard people say Nina Turner, no chance, people. Either they have to get into positions of power that are perfect prep zones for being the president that the American people will look at and be like, they could be president. Again, I don't think this. I think people with lots of different positions in this country would make good presidents, but most Americans have this feeling of who is presidential, especially Democrats. And so floating people that are awesome progressives, but don't have any chance at being seen as a possible president among most of the general population is silly. It's nonsense. It's wasting time. Now, if you can float someone to me that is more progressive and better than Gavin Newsom and has that ability to build a massive campaign in a pretty short amount of time, I'm all ears. Bernie Sanders has expressed interest. Lots of reports I've covered recently about how he's thinking about running. That would be interesting. He would be going up against the same problem of being too old. And it seems like the American people are kind of getting sick of that. But in a campaign against Trump, Trump's old too. Maybe Bernie could do it. I don't know. Lots to think about. And Bernie would have a better chance at building a really good fundraising apparatus and quickly rising back to the top of the national conversation. Whereas if you're starting from ground zero in such a short period of time, like I said, because Biden's holding up those deliberations, maybe Bernie is a better option than most. But still, we're in a tough situation. And I think while I wish we could have better candidates, we need to get good progressives into positions of power where they are seen as possible presidential candidates, not wanting them to just skip to the front of the line, I guess, or skip to a position like president, where a lot of people have these preconceived notions of what a good presidential candidate looks like or what experience they have or whatever. Last person that comes to mind is Warren. That would be interesting. I think she checks more of the boxes than the previous people I've named. But again, tough situation. So curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments.